Sit! Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garrett Price.
How's it going?
It's going pretty swell. We got some current updated ADP now that, a lot of rookie drafts have settled in, and, these rookies have made their way into the dynasty market, right? Like we talk about, it's easy to just focus on rookies and this time of year and where you rank these rookies and how you stack them up versus once another. But the most important thing is not how you rank the rookies amongst themselves. It is where do they fall in overall in your dynasty ranks. And it's always going to be the massive update to like ADP, like this time of year.
Sure.
So we just did our live show. We kind of talked about rookie ADP and where those guys were sitting. So now we're going to look at this from like an overall standpoint, see what maybe we, kind of get a feel of the town, see what we agree with, what we disagree with.
And with us, the big difference is like, Rich, you and I were talking about like, where do we rank them? But the community sometimes feels drastically differently about these players. So it's good to know both, like, where do you have them? And then where does the community see these players? Because sometimes that doesn't always match up.
Yeah. And when we say go left, when other people go right, a lot of times that leads to success, right? Like, hey, this guy right now is very undervalued. Go buy him. Okay. Yeah, I can trade. And ADP lets you know, like, hey, trade calculators. ADP is something that it's a tool you can use, obviously during startups, but also for buying and selling, right? If you see a player get a massive jump in his ADP and you feel lower on him, like obviously like, hey, I could trade him for this player, maybe plus straight up. And a lot of times, like, I'm not even looking like, ooh, I can get advantage and get like this player plus. Like, no, I'm willing to do this a 1-for-1 deal. And again, it's average draft position. This is not lock, set in stone. Price is always by the owner. It's never, you can't use calculators. You can't use ADP. It's to that team owner. Whatever they want is what you have to pay, right? Or you don't get that player. It's simple as that. So I think starting off, this is Superflex tight end premium ADP. No surprises in the top 12. Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Brock Bowers, Pat Mahomes, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Little League neighbors. Like, pretty chalky.
Yep.
I'm a little.
I don't think there's anybody in there that I like would necessarily argue. Like you and I, Rich, we were talking the other day about Pat Mahomes. Like he deserves to be in that conversation, but he's definitely like losing a little bit of his luster. And maybe I would have like another quarterback or two that I could see sneaking in, but it's just so hard to take some of those younger guys or guys that haven't truly proven it yet over the Malik Neighbors, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan types. Like those guys are just so solid and steady that it's just hard to supplant them. So I feel like this is a pretty solid top 12.
Yeah, and that's the one player in there that I would not take there. Like Pat Mahomes, like totally worth it. Like we talked about this other day, but like he's not a player I would take in the first round because I would much rather, have Brock Bowers, Bijan Robinson, and Malik Neighbors. Not saying they're more valuable in Superflex neighbors potentially, but more so is like, okay, I'd rather have one of those guys and Justin Herbert than Pat Mahomes and like, I don't know. Again, these are really good guys, so it's kind of hard to say. Like,
and like Nico Collins or somebody like that, right?
Nico Collins, Puka,
yeah,
Brian Thomas, if you want Genty, something along those lines. But yeah, I'd rather have the guy who's number one at the position, and then on a points per game basis, Mahomes, Herbert could be, even Caleb Williams this year could take a step up, could be a 1-for-1 basis or like a 0.3 differential there. And I really like to in that first round. And not that Mahomes has plenty of time. Like, I love to grab that young superstar, right? The guy that like who's elite at tight end, elite at running back, elite at receiver. That like I feel very comfortable. I'm gonna get 7 years out of, right? That unicorn dynasty skill position player, and knowing for the fact that the quarterback's the most important position. It's using ADP in these tiers to see where I'm comfortable grabbing those guys. Like going out here, like okay, I want Justin Herbert. And then after Justin Herbert, I know I can get like Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, one of those guys to be my number 2, and then build on that. But I definitely want to come out with one of those elite position players. And the more, again, the more that you kind of take those quarterbacks, you're going to drastically miss out on that tier. So it's like, where do you want to build and what tier do you want to get that last rung in? Now, I know I'm notorious for saying I'm always missing out on the running backs, right? Because I want to get one of those very elite tight ends. I want to get 2 quarterbacks, and I want to get 1 to 2 really good young receivers. So that's the first 5 rounds for me. And then again, if the good value is there on a running back, I'll take them, like on an H-An or somebody I love. But for the most part, like, that's my core, because I'm always going to preach like the running back's the easiest position to replace. It's the easiest position to draft and find filler. And then even in like startup drafts, like you can draft veteran old running backs, right? Like Joe Mixon's, Aaron Jones, disgustingly late. That can help you immediately. And then just kind of plug and play those young running backs as you draft or via trade. So, but yeah, overall, like the top 12, pretty chalky. I think when we get in here in the round 2, obviously the tiers get a lot bigger, but this is where it starts to get interesting. Definitely some of the quarterbacks out there, guys.
I guess before we move on, like the one question I have when I look at this is, how long is it until Malik Neighbors is jumping Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and it's because of age. That's the thing that pops out at me right now. I mean, both of those guys are going to be 26 within the next eight or so months, and Malik Neighbors is 21 still, and he'll be turning 22 in that same time frame. And from a points per game basis, Malik Neighbors 18.2 last year, Justin Jefferson 18.7, and I love Justin Jefferson, like he's my number 1 guy still. But I think just due to age, he could be a guy that kind of leapfrogs up as long as the production maintains where it's at, or takes even a slight jump.
And he has jumped a couple of those guys, the CeeDee Lambs and the Amon-Ra's. Those guys are coming right next, but he has already started that ascension above those players in ADP.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to stop. Like, I feel like everyone's going to start kind of picking him ahead of some of those guys just to get the extra 4 years.
Yeah, and that matters. I mean, 4 years is such a long time. We talked about this on the show before, where we say people like, "Oh, he's only got 2 years left," and I'm like, "Dude, that's 24 months. That's such a long 2 years." I hate when I hear in Dynasty like, "Oh, that guy, he's got 2 years left." Like, okay, you want to win back-to-back championships? You want to that's mess. Like, how drastic your league's going to look in 24 months and 2 years. Your team, like, that is such a long time, and it's so short-sighted. In Dynasty, people like, oh, that 2 year, he's only 29. He's got 2 more years. Okay. Maybe he's got 3, maybe. And then that's ridiculously long. So you're right. Getting an extra 4 years on Malik Neighbors, Matt, is like, that's a whole nother lifetime. When you're living in a 2 to 3 year window, like that those are those cornerstone players, right? The guys that you can draft, you can slide in your wide receiver slot, quarterback slot, tight end slot, and let it sit there for the next decade, which is literally like infinity in Dynasty.
Yeah.
And what makes Brock Bowers enticing at 22?
Sure. And with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, you have that window. You have that 2 to 3 year window of them having like extreme value, and that's it, just one. But with a guy like Malik Neighbors, you might be able to get 2 windows out of a guy like that before the age starts to creep into the conversation, at least. You know what I mean? Not that the production is going to fall off a cliff at that point, but the age is a concern amongst everyone else in your league and amongst the in general out there as far as ADP and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I played Dynasty for a very long time, and I've seen this come with many superstars from back in the day, to Andre Johnson, to Julio Jones, to AJ Green, to Reggie Wayne. Like, these guys, yeah, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, cream the crop, 25 years old. And then, 2 more seasons, we're at 27. Like, people are like, you want to still trade for that ultra value. And people are like, oh, dude, he's about to be 28. Like 3 more. They already started to hear it, like 3 more years, which I'm not concerned about. But like, it does. It slightly affects that dynasty value. Where, like, you're right, Malik Neighbors has that for him as an advantage to be the number 1 guy. And you're kind of projecting a little bit like, dude, this is a guy who could be the number 1 overall dynasty receiver. And once you hit that pedigree, it's like you can get everything you want. That opens the door for everything: quarterbacks, running backs, anything.
3 seasons ago, before the season, or maybe it was a couple weeks into the season, I traded a first for Mike Evans because he was an old receiver. Well, I've gotten 3 years out of Mike Evans, and I'm about to get a year number 4 out of Mike Evans. So yeah, it is funny because sometimes, now granted, sometimes there are players that just, they fall off a cliff and it happens and whatever, but especially a lot of these elite receivers, we're seeing them really go into their 30s a year or two and still be very productive.
Yeah, and some of these really same thing. We were saying trade a first for Joe Mixon when people don't want to trade for Joe Mixon 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and he's had his 3 best straight running back seasons in fantasy football. So you're right. It's part of the strategy of the game as well, is like taking advantage of like ageism and people that play that way. They want to get those guys off the roster and live this unrealistic reality. You're gonna have a team full of like 25, 23-year-old studs that are gonna carry you through. Like, it's the best way to play is have that good mix, right? Like where you have a steady flow, keep your roster going. And more importantly, going back to Matt's point and Malik Neighbors, like whenever you can go out and get those guys. And sometimes, we talk about this, Garrett, on the Nerd Herd live shows, is like, I'm totally okay with making lateral moves on players strictly from age, right? Like Matt said, he loves Justin Jefferson. Like, he's still his guy. But if I think that Justin Jefferson and Malik Neighbors are going to be pretty close to points per game, right? And thinking ahead of ADP and value, going, wow, I can gain 4.5 years by getting Malik Neighbors, right? Even right now, maybe Justin Jefferson scoring 1 point more per game than Malik Neighbors possibly right now. But like, if I think ahead, if I can make a lateral move now, why Justin Jefferson still is 1 or 2 in people's eyes and get younger for still that elite asset, and I feel really comfortable with that, that's a really good, smart dynasty move. It's how you can keep those contenders. Same thing for like the running backs, right? Like Saquon Barkley's. If you have a Saquon, but you could trade him for Ashton Gent to be pretty hard. But some of the, again, those situations find themselves in certain situations. So you can make those moves to get a couple of years younger, then it's a good way just to overall extend your dynasty dominance, right? Like kind of plan ahead and use an ADP for that. So if you believe in a player, like we all believe in Malik Neighbors, he's already after his rookie season, wide receiver 3 overall. It's like, okay, it's a pretty savvy move. Now, obviously Jamar Chase coming off the number 1 overall scoring pretty much fantasy player with 300 points. You don't want to make that move, but going to Justin Jefferson, a move like that isn't a terrible dynasty strategy whatsoever.
400 points, by the way, 403.
Yeah, see, I shortchanged them.
All right, let's get into the next 12 guys. At 13, we have CeeDee Lamb. 14, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Puka Nacua at 15. Ashton Genty, our first rookie off the board, at pick 16. Brian Thomas at 17. Justin Herbert at 18. 19, Trey McBride. 20, Nico Collins. 21, Caleb Williams. 22, Drake May. 23, CJ Stroud. And speaking of that older running back, at 24, Saquon Barkley. So I don't have any huge issues with this area. It's really the third round where I start to have like a few more problems, but there definitely is a player or two in here that I'm like, I would go a different route.
Well, I mean, the clear one's guy we always talk about, CJ Stroud at 23. Like, it's too high for me. Yeah. Like, to pass out a guy like Drake London to me over CJ Stroud is ridiculous.
And Saquon to me is, I mean, I know that's where you kind of have to take him, but that's too high for me. And it's a 28-year-old running back coming off his best season. Like, I don't know that it's going to get better. Like, there's nowhere to go but down for him, in my opinion. So that one feels like a trap. It's a trap.
It's hard to do that in a startup. Like, if you want to pay that type of value as like you're a legit contender,
sure,
you need like two to three more great running back seasons. He's going to give you that. So I'm willing to pay like, 24th, 25th player overall type of value if I know I'm for sure contender. But when you're doing that in a startup, that is risky business because you don't know how this is going to go. You don't know who else in your team is going to, or in your league is going to load up. Like, it's really hard to do that for me in a startup and really pigeonhole myself there at that spot because there's no guaranteeing the guys in your startup are going to do trades that you need to be a contender. So
yeah, I think you just draft that way. And you're right. I wouldn't make this move either. It's not my strategy, but I have done this once. Actually, when we did the Ohio Dynasty League, Garrett, same thing. I started my normal strategy of like quarterback early. And then in the third round, Christian McCaffrey was there. And this was over 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years
this
ago.
was, I think we did in 2021 or something.
Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey's still on the board, and I was like, dude, this is just unbelievable value, right? Like, and like once, so it'd almost be like Saquon now, but even not as much so because Christian McCaffrey was younger. But like once I made that draft pick, my entire draft strategy changed to the point of going, oh, okay, I know how I'm building this team. I'm building this team to win now and be dominant for the next couple of years. And that strategy worked off perfectly because it's a 14-man industry league, and I won back-to-back championships in that league. So I think taking Saquon here, I think that is totally fair value. Like now, obviously for me being like a dynasty, I want to build that young core in the first 5 rounds, the first 4 rounds, at the very least, the first 3 rounds. Like there's no way I could pass up like taking Saquon over a guy like Drake London, even like a Lad McConkey would be hard for me. Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he had the year we want him to have, like that'd be hard too. Like again, a guy who's only 22 years old, going to be 23 years old. Drake London more so, right? A guy who just was a top 8 overall fantasy football receiver, was top 6, I think, with Michael Penix. Like to get him at 23 over like just a couple of years at probably at best of Saquon, where I can get like 8 to 9 of Drake London of a true wide receiver 1 as my second pick, right? Like I could have gone quarterback early. I could have Brock Bowers. The same thing. If I'm a fade, just somehow fade quarterback with my first 2 picks to end up with like Brock Bowers and Drake London. Like I feel really good about that core and saying, hey, I could build around this. Now I have my number 1 receiver. I have my number 1 tight end. Obviously, I still have to attack quarterback, but there's 3 quarterbacks there that I can get that I feel really good about. Like, just imagine you can get Brock Bowers and Drake London and still come back and get like Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, pair up with even Michael Penix for Drake London, but have like those 2 quarterbacks to go with that powerhouse. So it is a strategy.
I mean, how dare you leave out Bo Nix, man? He was just right there. He was top of the list of all those guys, man.
Same thing.
Total disrespect, dude.
Well, I didn't know if Bo Nix would be there. His ADP is 29 right now. So for the 3rd round pick, I don't know if Bo Nix would be there or not. But yeah, same thing in that strategy. I get what you're laying down. So for me, yeah, it's good value. Like we said, CJ Stroud on a points per game basis, he's essentially scoring what Drake London is scoring. And for me, like that's not good enough for a quarterback at that value. Like you're better off taking a guy who's going to outscore. It's what's crazy. It's that youth of CJ Stroud that brings you in. He's 23 years old, but when you have guys out there like Bo Nix and Brock Purdy, and honestly, Trevor Lawrence and Baker Mayfield that significantly have outscored CJ Stroud on a points per game basis. Now, they just bring in Jaden Higgins in the 2nd. They bring in Jalen Noel in the 3rd to really help step up CJ Stroud's game. But again, we don't know how it's going to work out. Like, I know how Brock Purdy's working out. I know how the Baker's working out. So for me, like, why take a player here that's not even as good as the guys behind him? I can still add a young elite asset in front of him. Like the other quarterbacks like Drake May, Caleb Williams, I get it, right? Like I'm all in there too. Like I would love like to get one of those guys in my 2nd. That young quarterback, super high ceiling from a fantasy perspective, 22 and 23 years old. Like I know I have a ton of time to put this guy's either, worst case, they're my quarter. Like I feel like with those guys, worst case, if it doesn't pan out, where they're my QB1, they're my quarterback 2. But again, a quarterback 2 is still a top 60 overall scorer, and I feel really good about that as well.
And you've got him forever. I mean, for 10 years at least, you know what I mean? Like that's great. You could find that QB1 somewhere else if they don't end up being that QB1.
You set up more gambles in your back pocket. Like I said, those are the young guys you want to gamble. Like grab those 15 years. But Brock Purdy's 25 years old. You have 10 more years of Brock Purdy probably at least in Kyle Shanahan's offense, right? Like again, a ridiculous amount of time and just undervalued because he's not like this elite quarterback in the NFL.
All right, let's get to this is the range where we start to see a little bit of that rookie fever creep in. And this I'm curious to see how you guys feel specifically about where these rookies go. So at 25, first pick of the 3rd round, we have Drake London, then Omarion Hampton, Travis Hunter, Marvin Harrison, Bo Nix, Lad McConkey, Cam Ward, Jordan Love, Devon Achane, Garrett Wilson, Tet McMillan, Jackson Smith and Jigba. So that's picks 25 through 36. We had 4 rookies go in that range. How are you guys feeling about those players?
Yeah, for me, the Cam Ward pick's a little too high for me. Upside, he's 22, number 1 overall pick, but he's still in Tennessee. Doesn't have a ton of elite weapons there at all. His number 1 receiver is going to be 31 years old in Calvin Ridley. Don't know how this offense is going to really plan out. And not saying I don't like Cam Ward and I understand where you got to take him, but like, I'm not taking him over Jordan Love. I'm not taking him over Kyler Murray or Brock Purdy, right? Like, I'd rather have those guys. Again, in the 3rd round, I still need a for sure thing, right?
Yep.
A for sure thing. And I'm much willing to gamble on the Mario and Hamptons, Travis Hunters, and Tet McMillan's, where like, okay, I feel pretty confident of these guys paying out, where we know the quarterback situation's 50-50, right? It's a 50-50 just to be a starter in the NFL. Not even like, he could be turned into Cam. If he turns into CJ Stroud, that's not necessarily worth it to me. If you're going to pass up on a guy who like Marvin Harrison, or even say like a guy like Travis Hunter. Now he didn't go after those guys, but even like a Garrett Wilson, a Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver 1s, a Devon Achane, a chance, a running back who potentially could be the number 1 overall fantasy scoring running back. To me, that's a massive risk. And I try to avoid, again, in those first 3 rounds, taking those kind of risk, because could it pan out and you could be a stud and high end? Of course. But if you miss there, and again, if you're talking 50-50, it's not like a long shot to miss. Like, that can really set you back from a team perspective. And I try to avoid those unnecessary risks. And I want to take those risks like as we start getting a little bit like outside the top 3. Again, I want those top 3 picks at the very least. I said the 3 at the very least. They'd be my cornerstone players, guys they could put in there long term if they stay healthy, super high ceilings, and just not think about it, right? Like, I don't have to worry about that position whatsoever in my rookie draft. That's not a need for me. And Cam Ward, it's like you have 0 confidence. You just throw him and be your starter day 1 as an elite starter, or somebody who's gonna help me win a championship. So that's the only one I really feel is off to me. Everybody else, like, I get taking Travis Hunter there. He's 21, going to be 22.
See, Hunter and Ted are the ones that I have the hard time with. Personally.
The only rookie I feel good about is Marion Hampton. The rest of them, I'm like,
I agree.
That's too hot. That is too high for Travis Hunter. There's no way I would take Travis Hunter over Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they're both, they both are high ceiling players. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a much more refined receiver at this point.
Even Jackson Smith and Jigba, there's a year difference between those guys, and we've seen it out of him.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, like, the only one I feel good about is the running back. The rest of those guys just feel too high and too risky for the 3rd round. To Rich's point, Rich was talking about it, and I agree with him. In the 3rd round, you do not want to miss. And I don't think those guys are going to miss, but I do not know what the heck we're going to get out of Travis Hunter. I really do not. And I just don't love there's a ton of talent, but no one loves the fact that he's playing cornerback for fantasy purposes. That should not excite anybody. That doesn't do anything for us unless you're playing IDP. And all it does is distract and pull him away from being the best wide receiver that he possibly can. So for me, that he does not belong in this 3rd round personally. I understand that this is where you're maybe going to have to take him to get him. I'll probably just not get him in a lot of startups. And I'll be okay with that. I mean, I'll find talent somewhere else at the wide receiver position,
and that's the best
feel better about it.
Yeah, like, I'm okay missing out there because I'm the same way. Like, there's no way I'm taking Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan over Marvin Harrison, Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, those guys are guys. Ladd McConkey was just a wide receiver year 1 in LA. They didn't do anything to bring in any competition for him except for Trey Harris, which isn't like a major competition to him. Garrett Wilson is a very elite wide receiver. Again, target hog, number 1 option, one of the only options out there in New York. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba. Again, Jackson Smith and Jigba is only 23 years old. Just broke out in his 2nd year as a wide receiver, as an elite wide receiver 1. So, like, you're right, Matt. Like, why take that unnecessary risk when I want the guy who showed that he can do it right away?
Yep.
And, and what do you want him to be? You want him to do what Jackson Smith and Jigba did, right? You want him to be Ladd McConkey. And you got to project as well. It's like, okay, if Ladd McConkey was wide receiver 11 in his rookie year, what's another year of him with Justin Herbert? Like as they really grow into this relationship. So I'm with you. Kind of goes in that unnecessary risk. But you're right. If you want those guys, because what are you doing? You're chasing, right? Like, oh, I want quarterback to. There's no like elite wide receiver one there. I want to chase for like, I want Justin Jefferson. And that's what you're going to tell yourself. Like, oh, this is going to be Malik Neighbors is what you tell yourself. But again, unnecessary risk because that person can be Corey Davis, right? Top 10 NFL draft pick, goes to Tennessee, coming out like we loved his tape, thought he just totally should have been top 10 pick, couldn't have been a can't miss guy. And I was in a startup and I took him in the second round because I loved his tape so much before he ever did anything in the NFL. It was just, it set my team back, right? Like, cause it never panned out. And it's just a risk. As confident as you could be on the tape, as confident you could be in the draft capital, like that doesn't mean anything when it comes time to kick off, right? Like in what system you're in. So for me, I'm with you, Matt. I feel the same way about all those rookies outside of Hampton. And honestly, even Hampton there, like I'm not taking him over Bo Nix, like I'm not taking him over like even like Ladd McConkey. Cause at the same time, I'd rather just wait another round and take again, Bucky Irving, Trevion Henderson, Jonathan Taylor, Quinshon Judkins, Kyron Williams. Like, yeah, I might miss out a little bit here, but like I have him almost in the same tier where like, if I miss out on Ladd McConkey, now I'm settling for like T Higgins, Romo Dunze, Devontae Smith. Like we're at I'll say this about the receivers. Like you have AJ Brown next at 37. To me, once we get past this list of receivers, it's like, oh man, I missed out. Like now when I look at my receiving core during a startup, I'm like, oh, I have a whole bunch of wide receiver 2s. I don't have that wide receiver 1. And I need to have at least one wide receiver 1 on my dynasty roster. They'll have at least have a startup.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt about that. So you want to move on to the next round of these guys or what?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so 37, we got A.J. Brown, 38, Breece Hall, 39, Rashee Rice, 40, Kyler Murray, 41, Sam Laporta, 42, Bucky Irving, 43, Trevion Henderson, back to the rookie pool, 44, Jonathan Taylor, 45, Brock Purdy, 46, Kyron Williams, 47, Quinshon Judkins, and then 48, T. Higgins.
Overall, I really like this tier of players. Now, I would be bumping these quarterbacks up a little bit. That would be in the last round. I'd bump some of them up into this round. But this is like, I love when I make trades in a startup, I really target the 4th round. That's an area I usually really like because this tends to be the area. And you go year by year. Sometimes it might be the 3rd. Some years it might be the 5th. But looking for tiers of guys that could really ascend an ADP. Guys that you took in the 5th, that the next year are in the 2nd. Guys you took in the 4th, that are the next year in the 1st. Like this is a range of players where we could see some guys really, really ascend up boards. Rashee Rice at 39. A lot of risk there, sure, but we're kind of out of that range where we have to be super conservative and we can take some upside. And if he continues to do what he started to do last year, I mean, he could easily find himself inside those top 10 receivers in the league. Trevion Henderson.
And he's moving well, by the way. There's video out there of him running routes and stuff. He looks pretty good. So I do expect him to kind of hit the ground running this year.
I do as well. Trevion Henderson, another guy that could totally ascend up boards. Brock Purdy, as soon as he gets his contract, he's going to be moving up boards. Quinshon, we'll see what happens with him. Like, there's just a lot of players in this range. If Sam Laporta, once again, kind of shows what he did as a rookie, like, there's just a lot of players that could really move up boards. I would like to see a few more quarterbacks in this range, but other than that, I like this area.
Yeah, see, and this is my quarterback range for me usually, because I usually go quarterback in the 1st round. And if I don't go quarterback the 1st round, say I go the Malik Neighbors route, the Brock Bowers, I'm definitely going quarterback most likely in the 2nd round. But again, it depends how it all pans out. But the 4th round is like, okay, I know in the 3rd round I get a skill position player, and I feel super comfortable about all these quarterbacks that are left on the board as being my quarterback too, right? Like you mentioned.
I was going to say, we should maybe just list the next round because it's chock full of these quarterbacks. If we're going to talk quarterbacks,
this was all running backs. This was all running backs, and the quarterbacks. So it was like a tier of running backs, and then it's like everybody had that mindset of like, okay, I'm grabbing my young running back, and then I got to grab my 2nd quarterback, and there's a run, and that's what you don't. like I'd rather be at the beginning of a run than the end of a run.
Absolutely. You want to set the run.
Yeah. So where are we at on these running backs next? Were we at number what? Number are we at? Number
So 49.
40,
We have
49.
Baker Mayfield. So that would be the beginning of the 5th round. Then 50, Trevor Lawrence. 51, James Cook. 52, Michael Penix. 53, Jared Goff. 54, Romo Dunze, kind of on an island as a receiver there. JJ McCarthy at 55, Josh Jacobs at 56, Christian McCaffrey at 57, 58, Dak Prescott, who just got a little bit of a bump. 59, Devonta Smith, and then Chase Brown, another guy that's gotten a little bit of a bump. He's here at pick 60. So yeah, a lot of quarterbacks in the 5th round.
Yeah, and a lot of good value, man. I love when you mentioned Garrett before, like, okay, this is an area like I love the chase upside and biggest ADP jumpers. Like, Baker not going to jump major in ADP. He just came off his best fantasy finish ever.
Sure.
Still sits where he sits, expected. Trevor Lawrence could jump here. But like in Jared Goff, probably this is where he's going to live. It's only
I feel like Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff are kind of maybe cemented down where they're at a little bit.
I think Lawrence
some of
could
these
jump
other
a little
guys.
bit. In fact, he's only 25 years old. He could jump, but like I love like this is where like, okay, if I'm gonna be risky, I want to be risky with confidence. This is where I would love to grab JJ McCarthy to the point of like if JJ McCarthy's on the board here and I drafted 2 quarterbacks already, and I have 2, so I have 1 receiver, 1 tight end. I got 2 quarterbacks. It's Superflex league. I'm like, dude, I can't pass out on the upside and value here on JJ McCarthy. This is a guy who could skyrocket his ADP as high as the 1st round is where it can go. Like if he comes in here and execute Kevin O'Connell's offense with the weapons he has, I mean, if he comes out, he's quarterback 5 overall, and the fact that he is still so young at 22 years old, you're talking 1st round startup pedigree, and that's a guy who I can gain tremendous value. So I drafted him as my quarterback 3. I missed out on the other running back or receiver, but now all of a sudden, if JJ McCarthy hits, I can get Bijan Robinson, right? I can get a Jahmyr Gibbs. I can get easily like a Ladd McConkey, like those kind of players plus, and it's just value, right? It's like, Garrett, you say it all the time, like when I'm going to start up, like I just want to grab the best value. And I agree. When you're in a startup, like that's what you're looking for. So when other people go on runs, sometimes it pushes other positions down, and you'll see that in startups, right? Where it affects ADP, like, oh, a couple like, Ladd McConkey's the last receiver. So now people start drafting receivers. And then one person takes a young running back like Bucky Irving, and then goes Trevian Henderson, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Quinshon Judkins, James Cook. And you're like, okay, well, that fear of other people missing out, that FOMO, it just pushes that value down of like the important positions, like a quarterback for you. And I love to see that in a draft. And it's not always quarterback. Sometimes it is running back that gets pushed down to you because
sure, tight ends
in that running back. It'd be a tight end. It could be not the most part receivers, but you never know. So it's kind of like every draft is different, the ebbs and flows, and it's really on you to kind of find where that value is to build a solid roster. Because, Garrett, we said this on the live show where you say, hey, man, in a startup, usually when we're drafting those like now, May, June, like you got months to the season starts. So as long as you have a lot of good players on your roster, that gives you the flexibility to go out there and make moves for need, right? Like, I need
absolutely.
a run. All right, well, I got 3 good quarterbacks. And then if JJ hits and you took you took one of those elite guys in the 1st, for example, say you have Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes, but then JJ hits, now you got the younger guy. Matt Mahomes is going to be 30. You got the 22-year-old. Okay, I keep it gives you the privilege of keeping JJ McCarthy and then flipping Pat Mahomes, right? And it's like, oh, I don't need as much. I don't need to really get over on somebody right now because I have JJ McCarthy. So I can go ahead and get like a CeeDee Lamb, and I'm on Ross St. Brown and Puka. And now my team is significantly better, all because I used ADP or I drafted accordingly by value. Where all of a sudden now like, oh no, but I need a running back. And you reach and you take Quinshon Judkins and say Quinshon Judkins, it's fine, right? Like he's a good NFL running back, not really overly involved in the passing game because they drafted Dylan Sampson. Just again, speculating here whatsoever. He's just like consistently like running back like 17, 1 year he's 13, 19. And then JJ McCarthy's a QB1. Like you just missed out on tremendous value. So All right, before we get in these last couple rounds, we got to tell you guys about our friends right now over at FastDraft. That's right, FastDraft. You know, if you like best ball, which who doesn't? It's my favorite thing to do in the summertime. Get out there, draft teams, check the value of players. FastDraft is an app you want to get to and do such a thing because it is fast. You can do a whole draft in 5 minutes. And sometimes, like you're in these other apps and you're doing best ball drafts, and you're like, oh, dude, like I got to pick. It's like I had to 111 or 112. Like I got to wait a while. Now, FastDraft, right. You're cruise control, baby. You're making these picks. Be ready, be alert, get your pre-draft list ready. Tons of new contests that go on. They just opened a new one. The Marian, I think it's called. I know I'm on there all the time drafting teams. I'm just entering $10, $5 contests left and right. And right now, if you use the promo code NERDS, they're going to match your deposit up to $10. Up to $50. So if you put $50 in, they're gonna give you $50 for free. You got $100 to get in there and have some action. I love to do that, and that gives me like I like to do one team a week. So like that's 10 weeks of
that itch.
Keeping my mind right. And right now, if you use the promo code NERDS and you deposit $10 and play in at least a $10 contest, we're gonna hook you up on our end. FastDraft has been a great partner with us, and they're gonna allow us to give you a full free year to Dynasty Nerd Herd GM. You know, so you're gonna get the app, the Nerd Herd membership, which is the film room, the nerd scores, extra podcasts, more importantly, the app. And you know, one thing I'm gonna talk about this again in the future. Somebody wrote me today, like, you know what? I just want to say something where you guys don't talk about this enough. My favorite feature of the app is, yes, you guys have your rankings in there and it works on your rankings. But the fact that you do your own custom rankings in the app,
that is big.
The fact that it runs out, he's like, you guys don't preach that enough. He's like, that makes me look at Dynasty through my eyes and my value. He's like, especially for the trade calculator. The same thing. If you hate trade calculators and you put all your own rankings in, now you have the best trade calculator in your universe because
it's yours
in your own mind if it's fair. Because you're like, oh, is this fair? And then you do the trade calculator and you have it set to your rankings. And it's easy to flip back and forth, right? From our rankings to their rankings. You're like, okay, yeah, I wasn't going to accept this, but cool. Wow. According to my rankings, like I win this trade by a lot. You know, so it's a good tool to have. So all you got to do, FastDraft, use that promo code. You're going to access to all those tools, all the new tools that are coming out this summer, just like the Rookie Guide app that just came out as well. FastDraft, draftfaster.com. Use that promo code NERDS, and we're going to hook you up. If you're already a Nerd Herd member and you already have a membership, we're still going to hook you up too if you use it and use the promo code NERDS. We're going to send you a free shirt. Actually, we're just going to give you a coupon to the gift store or the merch store. You can buy it. It equals out to a free shirt, hoodie, whatever you want.
Awesome. And don't forget about FFPC. The orphans might be gone, but you can still draft a brand. They're gone. Yep, that's what I said. But you could still do the startups right now. Head over there. You can do $35 startups, $100 startups, even $2,500 startups. It's a great opportunity. You don't have to worry about the league folding, something happening. You might be sitting there, you're like, man, I want to draft a new league. I want to do it, but I don't have 10 guys or 12 guys that are committed to doing this. I want to make sure this is a league that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, heck, 30 years from now, I can pass it down to my grandkids and they can join the league in my place. If you want to do that, head over to myffpc.com. Use promo code NERDS. That's promo code NERDS. I'm going to give you $25 off your entry fee. That's $25 off using promo code NERDS at myffpc.com.
All right. Sorry. I'm ready. Got my ticket, got my airfare today for London.
The Browns game.
Yeah. So,
while you finish that up, we'll get into the next part of the ADP. And at pick 61, so we're starting the 7th round here. Bryce Young, Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, DJ Moore, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Warren, Derrick Henry, Jordan Addison, Emeka Buka, TJ Hawkinson, and Caleb Johnson. So that's picks 61 through 72, the 7th round. This is where I feel like you're kind of starting to take like your shots. Like, who are the guys that you're in a little bit more than maybe other people? This is where I feel like ADP kind of starts to like not go out the window, but you start to worry about it a little less.
Yeah, and I feel like I have I'm way more comfortable in this round of like playing the patient game. Like this is where like if I see a Mecca there, like okay, this guy again has a chance to jump ADP a lot. Like I know I'm not gonna get much this year, but like all right, I just gotta draft an older guy to be a substitute later, which is again super easy in startups. Like I can go draft a Mike Evans so much later and be fine. I can get Devontae Adams so much later, who could be a very solid player on my team. So I'm not overly concerned about that. So again, just about value and how I see it. You know, Kenneth Walker could be real good value here. You know, a quarterback could be. There's so much good value here. And you're right, Garrett. It's kind of like, all right, like who's my guy? Like where do I lean? This is like, you know, I'm a big Hawkinson fan. Ooh, I love the value of Caleb Williams here. Ooh, dude, Terry McLaurin. He's older, but he's a wide receiver 1 for the next 2 years. And I didn't tack wide receiver early, so this is a good fit. And a little bit more because now the big thing here is it starts to get much larger tier based, where like a lot of these guys are so much clear. The tier is so much bigger. Like when you're in top 24, correct, like you're looking at a whole bunch of small tiers where you're like, oh, okay, like, hey man, I do finally need to draft a running back here. So for a team like me who bypasses running back until like the 5th round, 6th round, I sit here and go, oh, perfect, dude. Caleb Johnson's here. Kenneth Walker's here. Josh Jacobs is here. Like, okay, I drafted a whole bunch of young guys at the core positions. And look, I still feel really good about my running back 1 here. Like really good. I can get Chris McCaffrey, but like I have a guy who can still be a running back 1. And that's where I like, okay, I started to feel like I made the right decision, right? Like I played my cards right. Like I got the 2 young receivers, I got the young tight end, and I got 2 young quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds. And now here I'm looking, like I can add a young guy in Caleb Johnson. I can add a bona fide historical running back 1 in Josh Jacobs. So you're right. This is like the round where like the tiers are big and you can kind of go ahead and start to like build that full roster if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the guys seem a little, I mean, like the Bryce Young pick, he's quarterback 22 off the board. That to me seems, I know he played better towards the end of the season. That one to me seems a little bit elevated. I would rather go with the Jackson Dart and just kind of start over again with a guy that's a rookie and hope he works out better than Bryce Young personally. And to your point, Rich, that you were talking about earlier, Tyler Warren is a guy that I could see taking a huge jump in ADP and being like one of these guys that gets pushed up because, you know, if he flashes and looks amazing as a rookie, then the sky is always the limit for these young tight ends. So I do like him in this round, and obviously Emeka Ibuka. Jordan Addison and Emeka Ibuka might seem like very similar players, but I'll take Emeka Ibuka because he's a little bit of an unknown, and maybe he's got a little bit of a higher ceiling a couple years down the road. So I don't know. That's kind of how I see this. I would be going for kind of just the youth in this range, and high upside guys, and staying away from like the Bryce Young type of moves personally in this round.
And there's guys after this round too that I would probably be, for me personally, rank much higher. Like that I want to grab. Like you mentioned Jackson Dart. Like, oh, again, kind of like what I talked about JJ. Oh, this is a good value. Guy could jump a lot. Yeah. RJ Harvey. Another running back, like, oh, another good gamble here. Running back. I could take the guy who's super young that ADP could jump a ton. So for me, you're right. This is not even still the range where you have to settle for the older players. I'm still looking at like the, cost reward. Okay. Terry McLaurin. Yeah, it's a good value for what he produces here, but he is 20, he's 29 years old, going to be 30 when the season starts. Like I could do that, or I can grab a 21-year-old quarterback, right? Like I can, and then replace again, and thinking about like, the cost of return, like, man, like if I want Terry McLaurin, it really just cost me a 1st round pick in Dynasty. Like that's the most I got to pay as a 1st round pick. Like if I want Jackson Dart, it's going to cost me a little bit more than that. So it's like, again, trying to compare the value of what we were talking about earlier.
Real interesting, I thought. So I feel like ADP for a long time was trying to do what we all wanted to have happen, which was like a lot of tight ends and like move them up. And I think you could tell the community is getting smarter on the whole, because like we've always said, there's like on any given season, 3 or 4 guys that like matter. And then it's just kind of all whatever after that. And the ADP kind of reflects that. We have 2 guys in the top 20 in Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. Then we have 1 guy that's kind of on an island because there's no tight ends from 20 to 66 except for Sam Laporta there at 41. He's the only one. So that's the one people are like, I'm willing to gamble because I've seen it with him as a youngster. And then now in the 6th, 7th round, we start to see a lot of tight ends going off the board again. So it's interesting how the community has just kind of gotten a little bit smarter with all of this and just said like, I'm just gonna, if I can't get an elite guy, I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah, and if I miss out on Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, I'm like, okay, let me check ADP where it's pushing. Okay, I can get Hawkinson, I can get Kittle. I can settle for Dalton Kincaid in that range. Like, but now I can wait a couple rounds, right? Like if I miss those guys, because sometimes I do. I miss those. I try to get Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. Like that's always my goal, is had that elite asset there. But like knowing so, like you said, with the way the market is, you do feel pretty comfortable with what you're getting here this late.
Absolutely.
A guy like George Kittle, who just signed a contract extension.
Who's a player or two? Because we could spend 3 hours on this going through and nitpicking the whole ADP. But on this point, from here forward, we just finished up pick 72, so 7th round. So now we're like in or 6th round. So now we're like 7th round and beyond. Who are some players when you look at their ADP, you're like, wow, that just screams value, or the opposite, where you're just like, I don't get it. I don't get why it's that high.
Dude, Jeudy at 91 overall. A guy who's just a wide receiver 1, who's 26 years old, who's still the clear-cut number 1 receiver on his team. That is really good value to me that late. I love
Luther Burden going 94. That screams why to me. Which is why you're going to be disappointed there. Sorry, Rich, I didn't mean to cut you off. Luther Burden
totally
was jumping out at me.
I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Even like, I'm trying to see who's some wise. I love the upside of Jack Besh at 122. I'm looking for like upside guys that I see. I'm not saying that it's like, because when you get this crate like this late, like I'm not like, I wouldn't take that person there, but like I'm okay with it.
One that I love as a contender at 159. So you're at like what, round 13 or something like that at that point. Stefon Diggs has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 this year for Drake May. That just is one of those, like, if you're going into this and you're a contender, or even if you're just looking at it right now, like, who can I trade for on the cheap that could like come in and be my wide receiver 2 or 3? Even if it's just for 1 season, I feel like Stefon Diggs is that guy. So I really like that value there.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley falls in the same category, the clear-cut number 1 there in Tennessee. Really solid NFL player at 142. Again, a great ad at any point. Like those are kind of guys where I'm scooping up for value because if I'm a contender, they're going to help me win. And if not, I could trade them in season 2 contender because I feel like they're going to be doing well enough where I'll get something back, right? Like those are great players to trade for, like rookies that you love that got hurt year 1, right? Like, okay.
I'm kind of surprised by this one. Like at first I was like, I get it. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, but if I could just get 1 season out of a running back, like anything after round 12 is like a steal. And so Javonte going 174, they just didn't add any real competition other than Jaden Blue. And maybe Jaden Blue takes off and is way better in the NFL than he was as a prospect, but he's a good pass catcher, but he would really have to develop a lot as a runner to be like a real threat there. So for me, that's another one as a contender where it's like real cheap. But if I'm not a contender and I'm in that same range, Devin Neal's going 2 picks later. And now I'm like, oh, okay, that's the upside guy in that same range who's playing for the Saints. We'll see what happens there. But like those are 2 guys in that range that, depending on where I'm at, that I would really heavily look at.
Yeah, I'm out on Javonte Williams last year. If he couldn't do it in Denver, I don't think he could do it in Dallas.
At 174,
I get it. But like, in that range. So again, this is my favorite draft strategy, is like in this range, like the 150s right here is where I start to, where everybody else is like taking you're right. Like the Rashad Batemans, the Javonte Williams, the Dubs, the Russ Wilsons, the Jalen Cokers. My favorite strategy here is to take the first and second year tight ends that were just drafted in the top like couple rounds. Like you're getting Terrence Ferguson, you're getting Mason Taylors, you're getting Harold Fannons in this range. You can take somebody like a Ben Sinnott, Elijah Arroyo is another good example. Like you see all these tight ends in this range. It's like, man, I love to gamble on those guys because I already drafted a solid team. I don't need them right away. I can put them in the back of my roster. And again, high upside guys that could drastically change your ADP. Like, and it's the tight end who's the slow roll, who they just flirt with that, like that second tier. People are so desperate for tight end help where like, we don't really expect like Blake Corum or, Jatavian Sanders or like a Jalen Coker to like really drastically change your ADP, right? Like the tight ends, like what you'll find out here, because you mentioned, they've already slipped in a regular draft. Nobody wants these tight ends that are young, haven't proven anything, and they'll let them fall by the wayside as well. So I think that's also screams really good value to me.
I'm totally good with that as well, because we saw when in our study over 90% of the tight ends that like end up being a hit in our top 6 type guys do it within their first 2 seasons. So getting rookie tight ends or second year tight ends and just seeing like, do they have it? Like, could they ascend? Because if not, then real quickly you can just move on, because we know almost always you have the random Gary Barnidge seasons that happen out of nowhere. Those do happen, but 90% of the guys that are going to do it are going to do it within those first 2 years. So I'm with you. I'm totally fine taking those guys just to see what if.
All right. So that's our ADP show. Always good this time of year to kind of get a good glimpse on where the market is. It's ever changing. It is ADP. It's not rankings, but it's a really good tool to use. It really is. ADP is one of the best tools to use in all of Dynasty. You can get really good ADP, good accurate ADP. We track ours. Sleeper has some. DLF has great ADP as well. So it helps you obviously for startups, but outside of startups, it gives you the latest sense of like where these players' true value is. Like this is where they're going in startups. So when you can find these guys that are like going super late and there's guys that you have in your roster that you don't overly love or overvalue, you can use that tool to go make trades. It helps a ton, help you identify windows. Because again, I'll sit here and preach all day. It's like, oh, Dynasty's like, it's all about finding that right window to buy and sell. Like, okay, well, what helps you determine it? ADP is one of the biggest thing that helps me to determine that. Like, even like RJ Harvey at 80 overall, it's like, okay, like if Tyreek Hill's higher than him, can I trade Tyreek Hill straight up for RJ Harvey? That won't work in every league, but if it works in one league, that's a success. Can I trade Derrick Henry for RJ Harvey? Like, I'm willing to gamble that one more really good year of Derrick Henry for a couple of years of RJ Harvey. Like, again, if you're in multiple leagues, every offer doesn't work in every league, but all you need to do is work one league, right? Keep throwing them out there. I'm in a lot of leagues. I'm throwing offers out there all the time. So this was fun. Love to see it. We'll be back tomorrow with our first off-season game episode. So I'm super stoked. Love the game shows.
Nice. Yes.
Absolutely.
I can't wait too. They're my favorite.
I know you love them, Matt.
Adios.